Alrighty, hi friends. Welcome back to another Nerd Venture. This, obviously, as you can see, is going to be devoted to one of my favorite comic book series or manga series, or I guess a little bit of both of all time, Akira. This is going to be much more of an overview of collecting it and not really a review. I will talk about that at some point in the future when I have read it more recently. The last time I read this was probably a couple of years ago. I don't know. It's been a while, and I definitely want to refresh my memory on the intricacies of it before I do an actual review. But I wanted today to talk about ways that you can collect this comic book, specifically because I am parting with these. Like literally tomorrow, I'm going to ship them off to a gentleman I traded with for some other books, but. I wanted to talk about how Akira has been collected over the years, how it has been an important thing for comics and manga crossovers, and different ways that you could collect it yourself if you so desired and had the cash, because that tends to be a limiting factor with collecting this series. Before we get into these issues themselves, the most common way to collect the book, which I don't have, I don't think I've ever owned. Maybe I owned a used copy one time and then I sold it or just traded it or whatever. But the most common way is Dark Horse Comics put out a 6-volume set of these, like sort of black and white phone book set, I guess you would call it. And those are probably the most common way that most people own this. They are, I think, normal sized soft covers. They're pretty thick and use like sort of I guess like a newsprint sort of style, like I said, almost phone booky. And those I think are probably somewhere around $20 a pop or so. I honestly don't know because, like I said, I've never owned them. But that's probably the way that most people will read this book. So if you are looking to pick up that style of book and just read it in any way you can, that's probably the best way. Almost every comic shop I've been to has at least one copy of these, even if they're not a manga-oriented shop. They will probably have a copy of Akira somewhere. So that's like the way that most people probably have read this, is in those 6-volume Dark Horse ones. There is also this is just a weird oddity that I have. I saw this at a used bookstore, and it was just facing like this, and I recognized the script from the film Akira, which, if you don't know, Akira is both a celebrated manga series from the 80s and then an extremely celebrated anime film from 1988. So I recognized this, and I was like, oh, that looks like Akira. And then I looked on the side, and it is actually a Barnes & Noble Books hardcover version of Akira, which collects a black and white version of the same content that the first Dark Horse volume collects. So I don't think that more than one of these existed. I haven't been able to find any information about anything beyond this first volume. So I picked it up because it was like $5 used or something like that. I don't believe that this was ever completed, but this would have been around the time when Barnes & Noble also did a version of like the Ultimate Spider-Man comics, like an omnibus version of that. So it seemed like for a time they were kind of getting into maybe publishing some things that were more popular, but obviously it didn't really pan out. But if you're interested just in the I don't know, just the strangeness of having this one-off volume, it does exist out there. You can get this Barnes & Noble one. It actually has really nice binding. If you saw, it's a nice book. I think mine's missing a dust jacket. I think there is a dust jacket for it, but this did not come with it. So, yeah, just strange one-off oddity. So you could grab this if you wanted. I wouldn't really recommend it because you're not going to be able to do much after you get through the first one. But like I said, if you are somebody who is interested in diving a little bit deeper into different ways to read Akira, there are some different ways besides the Dark Horse 6-volume set. So when Katsuhiro Ottom was working on this originally, this was put out in a Japanese magazine from 1982 to 1990. I don't remember the name of the magazine off the top of my head. But basically, this was a pretty revolutionary work because it was published with the idea of being closer to an American style comic. It sort of broke like the conventions of manga stuff. Like if you read things like that was kind of set up with Astro Boy and stuff, like Osamu Tezuka kind of laid the foundations for a lot of what manga was going to be, and then for years after that, there was a lot of imitation or at least like copying of the form, and that was sort of the accepted idea. And so in the 80s, Otomo started working in this style, this kind of like manga, science fiction, cyberpunky, but also kind of like it's hard to explain. It's kind of like social isolation. There's a lot of drug use commentary. There's stuff about like government and political things, religious stuff. I mean, it's a big, huge, sweeping epic. And so he was working on this huge volume, and like I said, it was being published with a definite eye towards American and European style comic books instead of the traditional manga style of creation. So eventually in Japan, there were the 6 volumes collected, which collects the whole series, as Dark Horse did. And then in the 1988, I believe, Marvel, through their Epic Comics imprint, as you can see right here, licensed this series to be produced in America. And when it was produced in America, they did something that was pretty revolutionary for the time, was they used computers to color the black and white manga art. So manga had been a pretty, I guess you could call it like niche or underground kind of thing in America before this. It wasn't really big. So in 1988, the Akira movie came out, and then I believe it wasn't until like 89 or 90 when the movie came out in America. But in 88, late 88 into 89, Marvel started publishing these Akira volumes. There's 38 of these, so they did eventually finish the entire set. And this is number 1. As you can see, it's Epic Comics. It's actually like a $4.75 book, so it sort of falls in that like premium, or $3.50, sorry, $4.75 Canadian. It falls in that like premium thing. It actually does have a like a spine on it, a square spine, I think it's called, where you have like a bound one like that. And it is colored, unlike the original manga, which obviously was black and white. So this was colored by, the color guides were laid out by a person, but this was one of the first times where the series was colored by computer. And it was pretty revolutionary, both in the sense of, starting digital coloring in the comic book industry, and also in the sense of people who might not have been into manga because of the black and white, and kind of like, it was often read right to left, and it was black and white, and it had a lot of Japanese sound effects and stuff. So manga was, like I said, very niche, and not a lot of people were into it. This comes along and really kind of blows the doors off of that. It's a serialized weekly series, or monthly series rather. It's completely translated. They ended up translating the entire thing, which previously had been kind of like shoddy as to if everything was going to get translated in a book. And so it really like changed the game in terms of what people could expect out of getting manga comics in America. And like I said, in this one, it reads left to right, so it reads like a standard American comic book. And the sound effects also are replaced with American sound effects. Or English, rather. I guess American, maybe, if he was going for that particular dialect of English. But it's replaced with English sound effects. So it is very much tailor-made to be consumed by the average American comic book consumer. A color book, a monthly premium book, and a left to right and American, or English, rather. Jeez, I keep saying that. English sound effects. So that started coming out in 1988, I believe, and it kept going until the early 90s. Like I said, there's 38 of these, and they're all great. I mean, all of these Epic Comic ones, they never dipped in quality. They all are really, really nice covers. They all have really nice construction quality. They are all colored really nicely. The whole set is here. Now, the thing that was kind of tough about it was by the time this series started ending, I think the interest had sort of shifted or moved away. You know, it took a long time for this stuff to happen. And when they started publishing the books in 1988, Otomo had been working on the manga since 1982. So they had like a lot of space, you know, between 1982 and 1988 to translate and finish and everything. But by the time we get to like 1992 and 3, it's only like a year or two after the actual comic finished. So the production schedule started to slow way down. And the last books between 30 and 38 were spaced out considerably. You know, they ended up being more money. This one's like a $7 book. And ultimately, there weren't that many of them produced, like, honestly. So if you're looking to collect this style, these epic comic book ones right here, this one didn't come out, see, there you go, until 1995. If you're looking to collect these books, be warned that issues kind of like 34 through 38 are quite expensive. I think issue 38, the one I have here, is about like a $100 book or so. And it finishes up the story as, you know, it would normally, but then there's also some kind of cool pinup art collected in the back. There's like some extra stuff. This is a Mobius pinup who was very influential on Otomo. There's just a bunch of different things in the back. Like it's just sort of like a little, it was a John Romita Jr. one. I don't know who that is. But yeah, this is certainly a very cool way to collect these. Now, the reason that I personally am moving my copies of these is that next year, 2017 is all that we know. It's sort of unspecified at the moment. Kodansha Comics, who are the ones who currently own the rights to this in the US, are going to be putting out a hardcover, oversized, definitive like collection of Akira where it's black and white. It uses the original Japanese sound effects, and it's read right to left, I believe. I'm not actually totally certain about the right to left thing, but I know it's going to be like a definitive black and white Japanese version. So for me personally, although I love collecting, I really enjoyed collecting these. These were one of my first big like goals as a collector, was to hunt down this entire set, and I did it. I really loved collecting these, but I just don't find myself enjoying the kind of computer colors or the changes that were, you know, the left to right and the different sound effects and stuff. I would rather, this is just me personally, I would rather have something that's more true to the original kind of publication and vision. But I know that's not true for everybody. There's a lot of people who, you know, would rather see these colored. And honestly, I think it's very cool to have them colored. So this original set, I think, would run you anywhere from 350 plus. Would be sort of the what I would pay for like a full complete set of these 38. But there are also other ways to collect it in color. And if you watch my haul videos from maybe, I don't know, 6 months ago or so, I purchased for a very good price online on eBay the hardcover Graffiti Designs collections. So let me explain this a little bit more. As Marvel and Epic, as you know, the Epic Comics imprint was putting out all these things, they decided, I think, like in the early '90s, that they were going to collect these color versions in trade paperbacks and in hardcovers. So there are some Epic Comics trade paperbacks floating around of the Akira comics, and they are in color. I have not seen many of them, but you can find them. They're just by Epic Comics. They're trade paperbacks, soft covers, standard size. They are in color, but I believe there were only like 4 or 5 of them published out of the something like 8 or 9 that should have been. So it's not a complete collection. Simultaneous to that, or at least in concert with that, Epic Comics and Marvel approached Graffiti Designs to do hardcover versions. And Graffiti Designs is a company that does a lot of kind of high-end, limited edition hardcover collectors things. A lot of their stuff are like signed and numbered, or at least limited to some extent. And they also do the what's it called? The basically the artist edition for DC, the gallery editions. That's what they're called. They work on those for DC, and they've done a bunch of really nice ones. So at that point in time, Graffiti started putting out limited, numbered hardcover versions of Akira with these colored left to right scans in them. So I had volumes 1 through 5 of the Graffiti Designs run, numbered out of, I think, 1,500, and I got them for a really good price. Ultimately, I ended up offloading those as well because there is a missing 6th volume of that run. Graffiti Designs only did 1 through 5, and then 6 never happened, similar to the way that the paperbacks only did like 1 through 4 or whatever, and 5 through 8 never happened, whatever the number is. So the only way to get the complete 1 through 38, experience is to do these books right here, in color, that is. Now, what you could do, and what would be kind of interesting, and I think has been done before probably, is it would be very easy, or at least easier than most like this, to buy basically the last 8 issues and to do like a custom bind hardcover to match the Graffiti Designs ones. Because the Graffiti Design hardcovers are just standard size hardcovers. They are, these books have a really nice quality to them. Like I said, they're premium printings, and they have like a super great white and thick paper stock. It's not going to yellow like older comics might. So it would be relatively easy to get the 5 Graffiti Designs books and then bind together these ones into your own hardcover to match and get a full color hardcover set. You could do that if you wanted. That was something that I was considering. But ultimately, to me, like I said, it wasn't really worth kind of futzing around with all that stuff to Frankenstein together a color collection. And instead, I'm going to wait for the deluxe black and white definitive one. So I hope this has all made sense. Basically, what it comes down to is, if you want to read it in black and white today and just get the most basic experience of it, you can go out and buy those Dark Horse 1 through 6 phone book style ones. If you want to read it in black and white in a more premium format, you're going to need to wait another year or some amount of time to this unspecified release date where Kodansha puts out the definitive hardcover. If you would like to read it in hardcover, colored, you can get 1 through 5 from Epic Comics, from Graffiti Designs, but that will cost you probably minimum $350 to $400 as well. And then if you want to read the full color run, regardless of collection style, you can get these individual issues from Epic Comics. Again, you can hunt them down or get a full set off eBay, which will probably cost you in the $350 to $400 range. Whew! So basically, it's just, to me, it's a very interesting idea that in the late 80s, early 90s, the actual coloring and the way that these were presented was able to break so many people into manga by kind of like meeting Western readers halfway and presenting them, with the left to right colored style instead of, demanding that they go out of their comfort zone into the complete, manga style, which a lot of people weren't really willing to go into. So I think these are a very cool artifact of the time, the digital coloring and the left to right manga translation and stuff. But for me, I just wanted to move them on to a home that would like them a little more and instead gear up for the definitive release that's going to be coming out in the next year or two. If you guys have any questions about the way that these were collected, I hope this video made sense in explaining it. There's a lot of companies and a lot of different things to keep track of and a lot of different editions, but please, leave me a comment if you have any questions about the ways that they were collected. I can answer pretty much what I know about them. And yeah, let me know if anybody else has these collections, because I haven't seen that many people with the complete 1 through 38. I've seen a couple people with the 1 through 5 Graffiti Designs, but once again, those are really, really hard to come by. And since there's not a volume 6, you either have to, custom bind your own or just kind of live with the fact that you need to collect these individual issues. So, yeah, that's pretty much all for me today. Like I said, not really a review. I will be doing a review of the Akira series once the definitive edition comes out and I can read through the whole thing again. This was more of just an overview of how to actually collect the damn thing. So, for the majority, for 95% of the population, it's going to be in those black and white Dark Horse books. But for those who want to go a little extra and who really love Otomo and Akira and kind of understand it to be the groundbreaking work that it is, you can definitely dive in a little deeper and find all these crazy ways to collect it out there. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you would like to leave me a comment on any of my social media stuff, it's all in the description below. And yeah, leave me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you liked or disliked this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks so much.